Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Dawn, also known as Dragon Rider, and in this video, it is time for some Rogue Alterac Valley Theorycraft decks. Let's take a look at what I've put together for Rogue. So this first deck I put together is a Stealth Rogue, and it is fairly low cost. A couple of key cards in the deck. I actually top out with the new Scabs hero card, being able to kind of reset the board and then put out a couple of stealth minions. In addition to that hero power, being able to use that and cast something for 0. The deck is fairly low curve, again, outside of this hero card, so I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work with the hero power yet, but being able to play something for free or 1 or 2 mana still seems fantastic. So I've got a lot of early stealth minions like Spy Mistress, Worgen Infiltrator, and the SI7 Skulker, and these are just to get those early stealth minions down to be able to continue the game plan after I have those out on the board, like the Ash Tongue Slayer and the Greyheart Sage, just to get more draw going and get attack. And then on top of that, there is a lot of damage as well. This is a fairly aggressive deck, so I've also included damage in the forms of Cold Blood, Nitro Boost Poison, and Wicked Stabs. Now, a couple other cards that I considered putting in the deck, again, going in on that damage idea, I considered Sinister Strike, and also even Mr. Smite. The deck is already low curve. Maybe you can land drawing it off of the SI Skulker, or being able to play it after using the Scabs and then getting it cheaper with the hero power. But it's just additional damage. Again, as well with the Sinister Strike, additional damage, not bad if you're looking for aggressive burst damage type deck. And because of how low curve the deck is, I also did consider Edwin just for a kind of big threat onto the board. It wouldn't be stealth necessarily, but if it goes a bit later game and you use that Shroud of Concealment and draw the Edwin, that could potentially be a combo. But ultimately, I kind of decided to just go more for keeping as many minions as possible stealth and going more for other damage instead of having the one big minion like Edwin. And I do just want to mention as well, I think this deck would be a great candidate for Drekthar if you have it, but I have been tending to stay away when I'm doing these theory crafts and talking about decks. I have not been including or suggesting Drekthar or Vandar for the decks just because people are likely not to have one or the other. So I've kind of been shying away from suggesting those, but I did want to mention that if you have that, I definitely think this would be a deck. You could easily take out the Shifty Sophomore, put in a little bit of damage, and then that Drekthar, and pulling stealth minions out of the deck that cost less than that 4 would be fantastic. The only drawback to that is there are a decent number of Battlecry minions here, so Drekthar might not work the best in all situations, but being able to pull out those stealths, like I said, would be great. So there is that kind of pro and con for you if you were to want to run Drekthar in this. And if you have been enjoying this video, I would appreciate if you could thumbs up so that other people can help find this video as well. Thank you, thank you. And now let's get into this second deck. So I decided to go for a Deathrattle Rogue, and I really thought about Secret Rogue as well. There seems to be a little bit more secret stuff going on as well, but I decided to go in on Deathrattles because I think there are some really cool Deathrattle synergies this expansion. So a couple of key cards in this Deathrattle Rogue. I definitely want to look at 2 cards here, Reconnaissance and Sketchy Information. Now, Reconnaissance, you're getting to discover something from another class, so it's going to give you some class Deathrattles. I think are pretty decent. They're not bad options. This could be one that I could potentially take out of the deck if the discovers don't end up working quite how I'd like it to. But the costing less is pretty fantastic. So just being able to play this if your hand is really awkward or you just really need something, this is a great tool. And the Sketchy Information, because it is that 4 cost or less, it actually did factor into how I built the deck. So being able to trigger that Deathrattle is what I was looking at. So I included things that cost 4 or less, Fishy Flyer, Ticketmaster, Loan Shark, Akama, and Nerubian Egg. Now, I feel pretty happy with any of these effects triggering if I played that sketchy information, as well as just being able to find some of those death rattles early. And again, this deck is fairly low curve because you're just wanting to be able to play things and get things out, get value from things when you play them. So we didn't want it to be too costly to do these interactions. So one of those interactions, I suppose, is actually putting Talon Forging in the deck to be able to draw this humongous owl in combination with those, also the Snowfall Graveyard, being able to potentially trigger humongous owl's death rattle several times off of just one card seems fantastic. So I wanted to include those and see if I can pull off some really cool death rattle combos. And in terms of other cards that I wanted to include, there wasn't necessarily anything that really stood out to me that I really wanted to include or really debated about with this deck. It felt a little bit straightforward putting it together, but the only one that I did kind of hesitate on is Terran Gorefiend. The reason I actually did not include him is because of that sketchy information and triggering a death rattle that is 4 cost or less. I did not want to draw Terran Gorefiend and trigger the death rattle because it wouldn't be resummoning anything. Maybe you could include, and it would just really suck if you pulled that specific minion off of the card effect. So maybe that does go in the deck later. I was just way too hesitant because of that single interaction, so I decided against it. Thank you so much for checking out these rogue decks that I've put together. I'd love to hear what kind of rogue decks you are looking forward to in the new expansion. Put those in the comments below. If you want to see even more Theorycraft decks, deck guides, or other content that I do on this channel, check out these videos and playlists here.